Good morning. Good morning again. We are so thrilled that you are here, that so many of you are here in person. We have so many on the stream. Wave to the stream. Hello, everybody who's watching us virtually. And we are just excited that you are here with us this morning for our 47th annual Symposium Town Hall. And I think that's something to be clapped about. So this morning promises to be insightful, inspiring, and most of all, impactful. This year's Symposium Town Hall, under the theme, "The Ancestors' Dreams Are Our Call to Action," is designed to let our ancestors know, to let the world know that we absolutely understand the assignment. And at this town hall, we will not only get the assignment, but afterwards, we will be in implementation mode. So watch out, people, because we're coming. Today, we have two phenomenal panels with phenomenal panelists moderated by two phenomenal women. Our panels will be conversations addressing those issues critical to the American family, mental health with an emphasis on self-care and caregiving, and how we as Black women can get our Black men to answer the clarion call to vote. But first, before we get started, we have a very special presentation from May Malik. May is the Senior Advisor for Public Education Campaigns at Health and Human Services Office of the Assistant Secretary for Public Affairs. She has over 14 years of cross-sector experience developing external affairs strategies. She was appointed Senior Advisor for Public Education Campaigns at HHS ASPA in June 2022 and began serving as Acting Deputy Assistant Secretary for Public Education in October 2022. As HHS's leading advisor for public education initiatives, May oversaw the work of HHS's We Can Do This campaign, which in its first year administered nearly 60 million doses of the COVID-19 vaccine, preventing nearly 250,000 hospital visits and saving over 50,000 lives. We want to give her an applause for that. Her other positions included serving in several capacities for the administration of New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio, where she co-produced and oversaw the development of multiple citywide multi-million-dollar public awareness campaigns, such as the COVID-19 support. She's a proud graduate of Coro's Leadership New York, and she received her BA in Political Science from the University of California, Santa Barbara, and her MA in International Educational Development from Columbia University. Please join me in welcoming May Malik to the stage.
Good morning, everyone. I'm so energized right now. There's so much love and unity and energy in this room. I'm so honored to be here. I want to thank the Black Women's Agenda for holding space for me this morning. It's an honor to be at the 47th Annual Town Hall Symposium. That is remarkable. Congratulations to all of you. Now, I'm not going to take up too much of your time because I know you have a very packed agenda with some incredible panelists coming up, but because the fall and winter months are approaching, I'm here to talk about a very important public education campaign that was recently launched by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and it's called Risk Less, Do More. The campaign helps people across the country learn how they can protect themselves and their loved ones from the viruses that we've come to expect during this time of year: flu, COVID-19, and RSV. The Risk Less, Do More campaign is data-driven. You could see our logo right behind me. It's data-driven, and it provides uplifting messages through advertisements on TV, on radio, digital, social media, and your newspapers, with a special focus on key communities. So we're taking extra care to reach adults who are 65 and older, including those with underlying health conditions like diabetes and heart disease, as well as those living in nursing homes. We're also reaching out to Black and Latino and rural communities, right? These are communities who are, as we know, disproportionately impacted by many of these health conditions. And it's precisely because of that fact that we're also tailoring the campaign's messaging to the credible messengers in our lives, the people that we trust the most. They are our doctors and the family members who care for and help our older loved ones access medical care. We call them health navigators. So our ads are going to be speaking to a wide range of communities who we want to support through life-saving information. Now, I want to make sure to emphasize a few key things before I head off. Vaccines go through a lot of testing, both in the lab and with volunteers before they're available to the public. And throughout the life of the vaccine, there is constant monitoring and testing for safety and efficacy. These are critical tools for public health because they help keep symptoms mild and they lower the risk of hospitalization by half among those who get these vaccines. That's very important. With the Risk Less, Do More campaign, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services is making sure that communities with the highest risk have the information they need to feel confident in the vaccines that can keep them healthier this season. I want all of us and all of you to be healthy and to really make sure that we're driving these messages home, because it's not enough to just deliver an ad to your cell phone or to your TV screens, right? We're working closely with organizations like the Black Women's Agenda that have deep ties to communities of color, so that not only are we delivering ads, we're actually meeting people where they are, at their community fairs, at their senior centers, at their universities, inside their nursing homes. We are coming to where they are. The Black Women's Agenda, and I want to close with this, the Black Women's Agenda has been showing up for Black women and Black communities for decades, right? 47 years to be exact. But showing up for our community starts with our own health, right? So I want to give you an assignment to piggyback off of Dr. Leonard. I want you to please share this message widely with your friends and your loved ones. I would love for you to join us in encouraging people to get vaccinated for flu, COVID, and RSV so that they could risk less and do more of the things that they love in life. You can visit our campaign website at risklessdomore.hhs.gov for more information. And if anyone here would like to get in touch with me or my staff, there's a contact us form on the website. Thank you again for holding this space for me, for your valuable time, and I wish you a very, very successful town hall. Thank you.
May, thank you again for joining us today and providing us with that very important message. Now, it is my pleasure and my honor to ask you to join me in welcoming our fearless leader, our visionary, the one who ensures that we as Black women continue to set the agenda, our Black Women's Agenda, Inc. President, Guinevere Catchings-Hess.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning. I'm so thrilled to see all of you. It's just a pleasure to see you. You come back year after year, and we don't take that lightly. There are many places that you could be doing the Black Caucus, but you've chosen to be here. So we want to thank you very, very much for coming and attending this event and following with the luncheon. We are delighted that you all are here. As Kimberly said earlier, this year's theme is "The Ancestors' Dream is Our Call to Action." I think we need to also heed the words of May and do more and risk less. And that I think we can apply to a lot of things right now. not just to the vaccine, but to our own lives and what's going on with us. So we want to welcome you on behalf of the Black Women's Agenda and the Board of Directors. I thank you for being here. I'm not going to hold you because that takes time from this dynamic panel that we're about to discuss. Thank you and welcome.
Thank you so much, Madam President. Before we move forward, I would like to take a moment and ask the presidents of our national collaborating organizations to please stand, because we are so thrilled that they are here with us, and we know that as the Black Women's Agenda, we could not do what we do if it were not for the members of our national collaborating organizations. Madam Presidents, will you all please stand so the audience can see who you are, and thank you for coming. The collective impact of the women that you see here is over 5 million women across the globe. So thank you all for all you do. Now, I'm going to introduce to you the first of one of the phenomenal women that I mentioned earlier, our first moderator. Stephanie Rollins Blake served as the 49th mayor of Baltimore, Maryland, leading the most significant economic revival in the city's recent history. Because of her fiscally solid stewardship, Baltimore's bond rating was raised to the highest it had been in over 40 years, and historic reforms were made to school facilities funding, the city's structural budget deficits, and while she led the city's operation, including a $2.4 billion budget and over 15,000 employees, crime in Baltimore was reduced to the lowest level in 50 years, and unemployment rate decreased by 30%. Nationally, she was the first and only Black woman to serve as the president of the U.S. Conference of Mayors. And many of you may watch, like I did in 2016, when she served as the secretary of the Democratic National Committee, gaveling open the 2016 Democratic National Convention in Philadelphia. She serves on numerous boards. She is a sought-after political and public affairs commentator, and I know you've seen her on many networks, including CNN, MSNBC, and BBC, which was just recently. I think you had to do BBC. In January 2024, Stephanie was named the chair of Airbnb's Housing Council. Prior to that work, she served as the executive director of the National Basketball Players Association Foundation. She has been the First Citizen Award, received the First Citizen Award by the Maryland State Senate. She was part of Maryland's Top 100 Women. She was a Shirley Chisholm Memorial Award trailblazer. She was one of Baltimore's Young Women on the Move. She has a Bachelor's of Arts in Politics from Oberlin College and a Juris Doctor degree from the University of Maryland Francis King Carey School of Law. She resides in Baltimore, and she has a daughter, Sophia, who attends Spelman College in Atlanta. So please join me in welcoming to the stage our moderator for our first panel, my friend, the fabulous Stephanie Rollins Blake.
Can you hear me? Yes. All right. So I would like to bring my panelists up. If you all could come up while I'm talking. Is that okay? And then I'll do the introduction. So am I using this or this? All right. So I would like to thank the Black Women's Agenda for inviting me to be here with all of you. I can't tell you how excited I am. The reason why I don't get asked to moderate often is because I act up, and I'm just going to tell you I like to go off script. And I say that because, and I can't act up in front of my Lynx president, so you cover your ears. So this is why I say I act up, because this is a panel, we're about to talk about self-care. And I know, because I'm looking at a whole bunch of beautiful women that believe in self-care, that took time to get themselves together this morning. I just want to hear from 1, 2, or 3 of y'all. I just want one self-care tip that you have to impart to everyone in here, and then we'll get started. Can we do that real quick? And then come on, somebody. Sleep. All right, come on. Oh, I'm working on that. I got you. All right, one more in the back. She says, stay ready so you don't have to get ready. Come on, one more. She said prayer. Oh, that's wonderful. All right. So I feel like that's getting us started, right? So we understand the importance of self-care. I didn't act up too bad, right? All right, good. All right, so we are going to get started. And I have to say, I was all ready to be all hyped and ready for this thing, and then I looked over and saw Dr. Janetta Cole, and I almost started crying. She's a former Oberlin alum, but more importantly, laid the seeds for the transformation that I've seen in my daughter, who's a senior at Spelman. Are any Spelman women in here? When I tell you it's the best money I've ever spent, my child has turned into the woman I never dreamed she could be. She not only has wings, but turbo wings, and I just want to say publicly, thank you. All right, now I'm going to get to work. I am starting with Dr. Beal as soon as my glasses take effect. All right, you want Dr. Janice Beal, you want to talk to the audience. You want to ask the audience 3 things. You want me to ask them, or you want to ask them, and then I can ask you why?
You can ask them, and
All right.
I'll allow you to follow up.
All right. The 3 questions. How many are currently caregivers? All righty. How many of you think that you will become a caregiver in the next 5 to 10 years? All right. How many of you practice self-care? Praise God. All right. Now tell me why you asked that question. Oh, those questions.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. I am so excited. Dr. Cole, I'm going to have to tell you, my money went to Spelman as well. And she's in the audience today. So I'm excited to say that, and thank you for all that you've done. I always have to, and my link president as well. I'm excited to be here this morning. The reason why I asked that question was because a lot of times we don't anticipate on being caregivers. It's something that happens and we don't plan, but I think that in order to be able to be good caregivers, we may have to start planning because all of us are getting older. How many woke up this morning and had an ache that you didn't have when you went to bed last night? Amazing. And as you live longer, they come more and more frequently. I was sweating like it was 100 degrees in the room, and it was only 70 this morning. So having to adjust and having to understand what that means is very important as we get older, and especially if we have to take care of someone else. And we know that our tradition, as we look at what ancestors and our ancestors wanted for us and the value of family, it's extremely important that we do try to take care of our family members. We have neighbors, we have everyone else that helps in that process. But sometimes we are caught between 2 worlds, taking care of children and taking care of someone who's older. And I had to do that personally in my life until my mother passed, and I didn't realize, no one told me what it was going to be like. And sometimes I think as we get older, it's important that women share with others who are coming behind you things that we need to do and things that we need to share as far as how life happens. I want you to tell me that someday I won't be able to wear these heels that I have on right now. I want you to tell me what it's like and how important it is to take care of me and take care of yourself. And so therefore, as you become a caregiver, there's a lot of information that's out there now that we can actually seek that will help us to be better caregivers as we're taking care of someone in our family. It's often an unpaid job too, so how many people get paid to be a caregiver? Any hands? No. So therefore, you may have to stop work. You may have to work part-time. It just may be other stressors that you did not anticipate that causes you to have difficulty as you're going through this process. So I think it's very important that you support groups. develop a support group with your friends, because you may have others. I did an informal survey of the friends that I knew, and the information that came back, I was like, wow, they could all come together and they could talk about how to do something and how to do it better. So, you know, our sister circles are very important, I think, when we're talking about how to navigate through different areas and different places in our lives. So that's the reason why I asked the question. I always ask all the time, how many have ever had a mental health concern? I know somebody in your family who's suffered from mental illness. Anyone? Ah, excellent, excellent. When I first started talking and lecturing years ago, I would hardly get any hands up because everybody said, oh no, not my family, not me. And then I said, if no one raised your hand, it probably was you, and you just didn't know. So as time has...
Now she's acting up, not me.
Laughter for me and what I do every day is very important. I see a great deal of people on a weekly basis as far as mental health is concerned, and so if I don't laugh, I'll start crying. So I think that's how I learned to do my job and to be able to do it well.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. All right, you already answered part of one of my questions, but I want to touch on something that I don't know about you, but I get tired of hearing, because you know the black women, you're so strong. We can handle everything. We're so resilient, and you know, just because we can doesn't mean that we should be handling everything, and they want to call us the superwoman. And you have an opinion about that.
I do have an opinion from one superwoman to the next. And all the panelists, as I looked at their bios, to the next, and everybody that's in the audience. I don't want to say that we are not superwomen, but we need to know what that means in our lives and how we take care of ourselves as being that process and when to stop. I think because our ancestors were able to do everything, and it was so amazing. I was on the plane coming down, and someone was talking about how women took care of people in Kenya. And I listened to her, and I listened to her description of what she said and how important it was that she had her mother-in-law, how she had taken care of everybody in the family and all these people. And she said she was just a superwoman. And I said, well, did anybody ever stop to say, are you okay today? I need somebody to call me and say, how is your day? You know, or how was your day yesterday? Or to have a great day. We need to be able to say that to each other so that we can support each other in the process, because it's so important. Superman had somebody to help him, right? Superwomen, we don't do that. But it's important that we show, let's see, I have all the characteristics. If you want to look it up, it says this is what we do. We have an obligation to manifest strength, an obligation to suppress emotions, resistance to being vulnerable or dependent, determination to succeed despite the limited resources, and we have an obligation to help each other. And those are family values I think that we were all taught, and I think that it's well that we were taught those things, but I think that we should add on that we need to support in order to be the best that we need to be. So take off your cape sometimes, ladies. Learn how to say no. Yes. It's a complete sentence. I guarantee you can practice it right now. Will you? No. Can you? No. Do you think that you could? No. What about tomorrow? No. You go on and on and on, and literally it'll become funny, and you'll get used to saying it. And I'll say no. My husband says, no, I can't do it before it even comes out, because he looks at me and says, you didn't even give me a chance to ask what I wanted to do. And so, but I mean, it's important that you understand and learn what works for you, because what works for me may not work for everyone else. But knowing when to take care of yourself and knowing when to say, I just can't do that right now. It's not enough time in the day. And in that process, to be able, as your caregiving roles too, for those who are caregivers, sometimes they may ask certain things of you that you cannot do too. And don't feel guilty about the process, because a part of being a superwoman, people, from my understanding, feel a lot of guilt because they can't do something. So they work day and night. It's not a badge of honor to stay up all night doing something. Okay? It's a badge of honor to plan to be able to do something that doesn't require you to stay up all night.
That's right.
Because by the time you actually do it, you just come down and it's like a crash. So taking care of our mental health in that process, understanding, oh, there goes an earring that has dropped. It's okay.
We're going to get it.
We're going to find it. See, I didn't come unglued. So learning what to get upset about and what not to get upset, and to choose your battles. I think it's very important that some things are just not worth trying to take on. It's something, it's important, it'll be there, If somebody calls you with an emergency, tell them it's not my emergency. I
Amen.
understand. And I'll call you back. Okay. So it means setting limits. I'm sorry, I hear someone on the left side. So I'm giving you all of these tools because I know we have other panelists and I don't want to take up everyone else's time, but I think it's so important that as we fly, we do fly high because we're about to be president of the United States.
Amen.
Oh, I didn't hear a lot of claps on that one. So can you imagine the support? So can you imagine the support that she needs and the people that surround her? So just making sure that we understand what our limitations are and to be able to take care of ourselves in the process.
Perfect. I'm going to circle back around with you with your last question, and I'm going to move to Dr. Harris to talk about what do we get right in our conversation about self-care.
Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you all for having me. And I tend to act up too, but I like to couch it in. I am a psychiatrist by training, and I just don't believe in elephants in the room, right? Because when you go to a psychiatrist or a therapist, we get all those elephants out. So I might do that today. But I think the good news is we are talking about self-care, and we are talking about mental health. And maybe a little later I'll connect the dots between those two and talk about the importance of broadening even the definition of self-care. But again, the good news is we are talking about it and we are getting into deeper conversations. Because I think when we first started talking about self-care, it'd be, eat right, sleep, get 8 hours of sleep a night, drink more water. But now we are really deepening the conversations and really making sure that it's not just a checkbox, because we have to be intentional. And let me just say for me, yes, I always say, oh, self-care, self-care. I'm a psychiatrist. I don't always practice what I preach. And so I think we have to say that's okay too, but get up the next day and really internalize some of these issues. Because particularly in the context of caring and caregiving, Black women have shared a disproportionate burden of caring and caregiving throughout our history. And you mentioned that superwoman myth. We are not, and I would say, let's not even put on that cape. We don't have to. It's a habit, right? It's a habit. Again, that history. In some ways, it is in our DNA, but it's also killing us, okay? And so we really have to be intentional about self-care and intentional about mental health. I'm going to call an elephant out in the room. Only 20% of folks raise their hand when you ask about mental health. It's okay to say, I am suffering from these challenges. My family members are suffering. And I broaden that to anxiety, stress. All of us deal with those. So you don't have to have a diagnosable clinical condition in order to raise your hand to that question. And I also want to talk about the unrealistic expectations that are sometimes internal and sometimes external. So that gets to taking off that cape. And the last thing I'll say for this question is I do also love your point about one size does not fit all. Each of us has a different set of resources and supports and coping skills that we've learned. We may be caring for elderly parents. I was an only child. Over the course of several years, I had to be a caregiver for both of my parents. But I was fortunate in that I knew that my parents loved me and treated me well. Not everyone is in that situation. Some folks come from families of origin where they were not supported, and then they find themselves in that caregiving role with all those mixed emotions that come with that. So I'll just stop there for this first question, but to say we are talking about it, we are paying attention, and we are having these conversations on deeper levels.
Well, thank you for bringing up the elephant in the room, because I do think it's important that we are self-reflective about what self-care means and when we need it. I mean, believe it or not, you know, I gabbled in the convention, I've been mayor, did how many press conferences, couldn't even count. And I'm sitting in the green room getting nervous. I said, why? And I had to do some self-talk. I said, if you can't get excited about speaking in front of a whole bunch of black women, who are you going to get excited about? I had to talk. Sometimes you got to talk to yourself and be intentional about what self-care means to you. Because your version of self-care isn't everybody's version of self-care.
That's right, that's right.
You know, I don't want a massage all the time.
Exactly. I was in a panel with a woman, and she said she felt pressured. You know, she said, people say meditate, and she said, meditation stresses me out.
All right. I'm going to try to get back on track, I promise you. Okay, how should we be expanding what self-care means?
Well, I think this is where conversations around mental health come into play. And I trained at Emory for my psychiatry residency and fellowship training. And I remember going to church one day, and I'm a psychiatrist, and I went to church, and the pastor, by the way, and Michael Eric Dyson and I were on a panel a couple of years ago, CBC, about mental health in the faith community. And certainly we've come a long way. So this is maybe 20 years ago. And the pastor said, if you have God in your life, you don't need your psychiatrist. Now I'm in the audience, and I'm a psychiatrist. And I was just thinking that I don't believe the pastor would say, if you have God in your life, you don't need your cardiologist if you have a heart disease. And so I think that got to the point of how we have, this is getting better, stigmatized conversations around mental health. You're not praying hard enough. You have a demon. Just get over it. Fortunately, again, we are having these conversations here, and we have moved a long way, and we understand these are chronic medical disorders if you have a diagnosable condition, or they may be self-limited, but they may knock you to your knees even in that self-limited time. So I think we're broadening our conversations around mental health, understanding that health is inclusive of mental health. I am very intentional. Folks talk about physical health or mental health, and I like to change that narrative. Let's just say health, including our mental health, because they are not separate. If you have diabetes and are depressed, that's going to impact your ability to keep yourself well from your diabetes, your hypertension. So I'm so glad that we are having this conversation and not overlooking mental health. We're more comfortable saying, yes, it's me or it's someone in my family. And I want to end the answer to that question and talk about grace. And by the way, spiritual health, emotional health, financial health, and wellness, all of those contribute to our overall health. But at the end of the day, at the beginning of the day, we need to start and end with giving ourselves grace.
I love that. So I'm going to save your last question for the final round and talk a little bit about estate planning. And I don't know about, I saw all the questions, but I was thinking, how does estate planning fit with self-care? And I feel like you're about to tell us.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I'm so pleased to be here. My name is Ethel Mitchell. I'm an estate planning attorney. I have a law firm that's called Wills and Trust, LLC. If you listen to WOL, for 11 years I've been on WOL talking about wills, trust, and estate planning. Every Saturday morning from 8:30 to 10 o'clock. It's live. I answer your questions. You can go to our website. So let me get more specific. Everybody needs at least 3 documents. Everybody needs a last will and testament, a power of attorney, and an advanced medical directive. Please, I beg of you to get your parents, your grandparents, your loved ones to do a will, a power of attorney, a medical directive. If they say to you, oh baby, I don't need that, blame me, okay? Tell them the lawyer said, Mama, you gotta have a will. Do you know how much property is being lost from our ancestors because they don't have a will? Now let me bring this back to caregiving. When you have a will, a power of attorney, and a medical directive, that helps. The real legal document that really helps you when you need to do caregiving or you have to do caregiving is a trust, okay? A trust is a legal document that says you are a trustee, meaning that you are managing property for the benefit of somebody else. We tend to think of a trust as an instrument that's used when somebody dies. But a trust can be extremely helpful to the caregiver as well as the person being cared for while they are alive, okay? An estate planning attorney can create a trust. Let's say you're taking care of your mother or your father, it doesn't really matter. And you're gonna be the primary person who's responsible for them. A trust can be created that has their property in it. They may be a trustee or not, but the caregiver can be a trustee of that trust. What it empowers you to do is to use their home, their money, their assets. You put their bank accounts where their Social Security's going in, their pensions going in, their savings accounts, their annuities, whatever it is, and you can then use that under law to take care of them with it. Okay? I have clients who have bought single floor houses for their families, their parents, because they were in these houses like so many in DC that have stairs. I have clients that have redone, resurfaced, did the bathrooms, do the ramps, whatever they need. As a trustee, legally, you are able to do that for your loved one. That takes a lot of weight off of you. Because your loved one knows that they're going to be taken care of with their own money. You don't have to put your own, you don't intermingle your money with theirs. You use their money for it. And it's only theirs as long as they are alive. You can't use it for anybody else. They can still say, now baby, when I die, this is what I want you to do with what's left over, and then you do that too. But while you are alive, while they are alive, the caregiver can be given tremendous amount of leeway to take care of the person that they're caring for, okay? So that's one way. Another way is if you have a loved one who wants you to take care of somebody else. So let me give you an example. A husband is sick. His wife is also sick. He's concerned because he knows that if he dies, his wife can't take care of herself. Maybe she never managed money, but she's too sick to do it. And so he says to their daughter, since we're talking about mostly women here, could be the son, I want you to take care of your mother for me if I can't. And so you come to an estate planning lawyer, we create a trust, we put the husband's money in the trust, we put the property in the trust, and the daughter now is given the legal ability to take care of the mother with the assets that were left by the father. So these are real, and there are many, many more, variations on this that we can set up the legalities for you in a way that really makes a difference. And it can help you while they are alive, not just at the time of their death. So I'll stop right now, but there are a lot of different variations that we can do for that. So I beg of you, please make sure they have a will, at least a power of attorney and a medical directive, And if you see where you're going to have to take care of somebody for a long period of time, or for any period of time, consider having a trust done by an estate planning lawyer. Please don't go online and get these things done online, please. Okay, because it's just a mess. It doesn't work, okay? There are all kind of problems with it, okay? But go to an estate plan. We don't do anything else. We have 3 lawyers, we don't do nothing else. And so we've seen a lot of variations. We know how to make it work. So we'll be glad to work with you if you're in DC, Maryland, or Virginia. But if you come from another state, find a real estate planning lawyer and go to them and explain the situation. And they can create a legal document for you. That really makes a big difference. It really can make a big difference.
I knew you could break it down for us. Thank you so much. I'll save your second question. But I'm being mindful of time. And I want to go over to Kelly Joy Richardson and talk about, you recently spoke about the notion of it can happen to anyone. What did you mean by that?
Yeah, so even my name is interesting. I am born Kelly Joy Richardson from Cleveland, Ohio. Many people know me as Kelly Richardson Lawson. Long story there, I'm not going to go there. My main story for this morning is that I grew up with a wonderful middle-class family, had dinner together every night, which is rare, even for my family, and went to Howard, pledged Delta Sigma Theta sorority, you know, and started my career, my corporate career, P&G, BET, bunch of great companies. And somewhere along the line, I lost track of Kelly Joy. I started chasing a check, chasing the corner office, chasing the C-suite title, chasing the bag and the things and the homes and all of the things that don't matter. And I lost track of me, of who I am as Kelly Joy Richardson from Cleveland, Ohio. Have 2 beautiful, beautiful sons, praise God. Had a husband, nice, wonderful man. And again, was so focused on my career and so focused on putting my children on a trajectory that I had created for them. This path that I saw for them that was, you're gonna go to the Olympics, you're gonna be one of the first black swimmers, you're gonna do all these things that really were things that were my dreams. They were not their dreams. And so my 9th grader, Kyle, beautiful young man, came back from the Olympic Training Center one day and said, I don't want to swim anymore. I'm tired of swimming. And that's a normal thing. Who wants to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning every day and go to practice and then have to go to school? Who wants to do that? It's a really terrible sport, actually. And it's terrible for parents. So I say that if you have little kids, think about it, you know, but 4:30 practice is hard. And my husband at the time and I both forced him to stay with swimming. Forced him to get up, woke him up, threw the covers off every morning at 4 a.m. He hated it. And the more he hated it and the more we forced him to do it, the more he started to rebel. He introduced drugs into the home. At the time, it was illegal in Maryland. And so we punished. The more we punished, the more he rebelled, jumping out the window, leaving the house. And we were in shock because we're like, our beautiful child, straight A student, is all of a sudden unraveling, and we were unraveling. And one morning we woke up in the hospital room. He had tried to end his life. And he was 16 years old. And we were shocked. We were speechless. We didn't know what happened. We didn't see it coming. We had not listened to him. We had just that's as simple as I can say it. We didn't listen. And we were in complete shock. And at that time, started really working to try to help him get off the drugs, change, and get back still on track. And I say that because we still were not listening. And so he tried again. And we started trying to get him help and sending him away and all these things. And there was such a space of loneliness and depression and shame and guilt. And I had this facade that everything was wonderful and great. I was getting on stage all the time, talking about the Crown Act, talking about, you know, all the work that we do in my company and with incredible people. and inside was really, really depressed and really hurting, and my children were hurting. And so I finally decided to create something called the Sunrise Project, because I had a moment of clarity as I was praying. And I realized that I really needed to stop living my life in fear, that my children were going to, something was going to happen to them. They were going to end up in the system, my eldest especially. And I started to walk in faith over fear and really said, what can I do to help myself and to help other parents? And so the Sunrise Project was born as a nonprofit organization that is a safe space for Black parents to come together every week. It's a free call on Sunday mornings. Oprah picked it up as a podcast a few years ago, was nominated for an NAACP Image Award. And I only share that because while that's important, what's most important is that every Sunday morning there's a woman that says, I'm heading to do a surgery and I don't know what to do. I am struggling, and this helped me this morning. So there's a space for hope. There's a space to tell people, we're going to get through this if you walk with faith and you surrender and say, my children are yours. Do with them what you will. And I walk in that space now, and it's so peaceful. And I'm so grateful that God has allowed my children to walk on their own journeys. And so Kyle, who is living in Denver and working and figuring his life out. And I allow him to do that the way he wants to do that. A blessing. And I call my little one, who's not little at all, little Chris, decided to leave the Naval Academy last year. And he had worked really hard to get into the Naval Academy. And I was like, are you sure you want to do that? Are you sure? And he said, yes. And he's at Howard. That's one, incredible, but two, that's his choice and his path. And so I just share all that to say I've learned relationship over being right is so critical as a parent and in life. Focusing on the relationship and then focusing on faith versus fear. But it really can happen to anybody. And I think everybody in this room has something that they're going through. We all have something that we're going through, and we may not want to talk about it, but we can't heal until we reveal. And that is so true. You have to feel it, you have to walk through that pain, and you have to reveal it and talk about it with a vulnerability to really start to heal.
Thank you for sharing. Now, we are going to take a very, very brief, what do we call it, a station break, because we have a very special announcement, and then we're going to get back to our conversation.
So, President Hess is going to come up for this presentation, and then we certainly would like to ask Joanne Jenkins, CEO of AARP, to join us, and the Honorable Corinne Jean-Pierre.
And please come up now. While they're making their way up here on the stage and giving hugs along the way, Black Women's Agenda is vain enough and honorary enough to believe that we are the only game in town. And that so much is, that everybody is just here and nothing else is happening during the Friday of the Black Caucus, that everybody wants to be here and it's the hottest ticket in town. Well, it just so happens that there are other things going on, and we wanted to honor Corinne Jean-Pierre now. It just brings tears to my eyes, how strong, how wonderful she is. She is dedicated to all of us, but she's also dedicated to someone called the President of the United States. And she does have a full-time day job for every day of the week. So she's only be able to be with us at this time. So at this time, I would like for Joanne Jenkins to come forward, who is the CEO of AARP, to present this award.
Good morning, ladies. Good morning. And a few gentlemen. Yeah. As the corporate sponsor for the Black Women's Agenda, I congratulate all of you on the 47th Annual Symposium, and I'm honored to be here to present the Trailblazer Award to Corinne Jean-Pierre. One of the things that makes this special for me is your theme for the year symposium, the ancestors' dreams or our call to action. At AARP, our organization, whose purpose is to empower people to choose how they live as they age, we understand, indeed, we celebrate the value of age and experience. And for over 65 years, we have advocated, provided resources, and served as a trusted source of information for people as they age, empowering them to build their ancestors' dreams. And our members, who are aged 50 and older, are themselves trailblazers, forging a bold new path for living their best life at every age. Corinne Jean-Pierre personifies this theme and epitomizes what it means to be a trailblazer. Throughout her career, she has stepped into and influenced the spaces that our ancestors could only dream of and fought tirelessly to become a part of. She is a longtime advisor to President Biden, having served in the senior communications and political roles in the Biden administration and also in the Obama administration. And now she is the first Black person and first openly queer person to serve as the White House press secretary and the assistant to the president. And if that is not demanding enough, she's also a mom. Corinne, all of us in this room recognize and acknowledge the struggle that comes with being the first, and we thank you for stepping into this role. But that's what trailblazers do, and that's what Black women do each and every day. And it is my honor and privilege to present you with the Black Women's Agenda 2024 Trailblazer Award. We're gonna do a photo first. Let's hear again for Corinne, you guys.
This is very heavy. I'm going to put it down for a quick second. But thank you so much. Thank you so much. This is truly an honor. When I am able to come out and come to these events and get an award, the times that it means the most to me is when I get it from my community, my people. So thank you so much. This means so much to me. So I want to thank the Black Women's Agenda. I want to thank Joanne for being here and offering me this award. I'm getting a little emotional. I see a lot of people that I love in the audience. I see my girl, Joanne Reed, who, by the way, was a really big part in my career and moving to the space that you see me here at today. And it also makes me realize, and I think about this every day, that I stand on so many shoulders. When I stand at that podium or behind that lectern at that podium, I'm standing on our ancestors. Many people before me who would never have dreamed of the moment that we would break a stereotype of what the White House press secretary should look like. And it is also why it's such an honor that I get to be part of an administration that is indeed the most diverse administration in history. From our amazing Vice President Kamala Harris, to the first Black woman on the Supreme Court, Ketanji Brown Jackson. And that could not have been done without all of you. I know the Black Women Agenda has been around for 77 years of grit, hard work, love for our community, pushing that agenda, our agenda, making sure that we are not forgotten. And so I am very thankful to be here with all of you. It gives me such joy to see these beautiful faces and to have you all here lifting me up, lifting all of us up. So thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
So I don't know how we could top that as we were talking about self-care. I just want to lend my congratulations as well, because I know when I see Karine at the podium in the White House, I think God must have covering over her and her tongue, because if I was asked on the floor, if they were asked, I couldn't do it. So I said the award is very well deserved. I know we had more questions to get to, but they're telling me to wrap up, and I don't want to get the hook. So I want to thank our panelists. Thank you for your vulnerability. Thank you for your insight. Thank you for making us think about the ways in which we should care for ourselves and be caregivers in our community. Can I just show it? Yes, you can.
Ladies, I was trying to say something that would be memorable for today, but I'm just amazed. I don't even know how I can say anything afterwards. But I came up with this concept overnight, literally overnight, and found someone to print it before I left Houston. And it says, I stopped to take care of me. And this is the campaign that I think that I'm going to go forward with. Somebody's going to fund it, I don't know who. But I'm going to go forward as a mental health professional, make sure that we understand, and I'm so appreciative of the fact that mental health is at the beginning of the beginning as opposed to the end. Normally I have like 3 or 4 minutes, and I'm sure you'll agree, to talk about mental health. So I commend everyone, and thank you. I almost said Sarah, I almost said Link, I almost said everybody. But thank you, thank you, thank you. So I stopped, and you said the words to take care of me. Have a great evening.
Thank you again. Thank you.
Can we give this panel another round of applause, please? And our dynamic moderator. Thank you, ladies. Thank you so much for sharing the insight, the inspiration, and now the impact. I hope you all are enjoying this so far. I want to take another minute and introduce some of the hardworking people, because BWA has worked very hard to bring this to you. So I'd like to be able to introduce our symposium chair, our forever symposium chair, Gina Adams. Would you please stand? We are so grateful for all she does. And then will the members of the Black Women's Agenda please stand? All the board members of the Black Women's Agenda. Thank you. Now I have the pleasure of introducing the second phenomenal woman that I mentioned, Joy Ann Reid. Joy Ann Reid is the host of The Readout, which airs Monday through Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on MSNBC. Y'all watch now if you're not watching already. She is a political analyst for MSNBC. She is the author of several New York Times bestsellers, including The Man Who Sold America, Trump and the Unraveling of the American Story, Fracture, Barack Obama, the Clintons, and the Racial Divide, and We Are the Change We Seek, the speeches of Barack Obama, which she co-edited with Washington Post columnist E.J. Dionne. She most recently published Medgar and Merle, Medgar Evers and the Love Story That Awakened America, which debuted in February 2024 at #1 on the New York Times bestseller list. Previously, Joy hosted the MSNBC show AM Joy, offering distinctive analysis and insight on the news every weekend morning. She also previously hosted the weekday program, The Read Report. From 2011 to 2014, she served as the managing editor of thegrio.com, a daily online news and opinion platform devoted to delivering stories and perspectives that reflect and affect Black audiences, while also serving as an MSNBC contributor. She has worked in local and national news, talk radio, and as a press secretary during 2 presidential campaigns, including Barack Obama's Florida campaign in 2008. Her columns have appeared in the New York Times, The Guardian, the Miami Herald, New York Magazine, and the Daily Beast. She graduated from Harvard University with a concentration in film in 1991, taught a course on race, gender, and media at Syracuse University's Newhouse School of Communications, New York City Annex, from 2017 to 2018. She and her husband Jason have their own documentary film production company, and they reside in Maryland and have 3 children. Now, you're getting ready to see history in the making. Because Joy Reid, you see who's in the house, is getting ready to host and moderate the first all-male panel that BWA has ever had in its 47-year history. So, panel, start moving up and join me in welcoming Joyanne Reid and this historic panel today.
Thank you. Good morning. I just want to note that Roland Martin is already acting up, and so I'm going to need to get him under control. We're going to need to get him under control. Are there any alpha men in the house that can get him under control? All right, we're going to go ahead and introduce this panel before Roland gets even more out of control. Let me go ahead and introduce everyone. This is going to be a really historic panel, and it's a really important discussion, especially now. But before I introduce the panel, and I think she might have left already, can we just one more time acknowledge Karine Jean-Pierre? Because especially in this moment when the Haitian American community is being demonized, we need to recognize that what Haitian Americans are people like Karine Jean-Pierre, who are making this country better, smarter, wiser, and more morally sound. We love her. And by the way, sans l'ouverture, no America, no New Orleans, no whole west of the country. Haiti helped make America. Show them some daggone respect. We wouldn't have half this country without. Y'all love New Orleans? You better love Haiti. Okay, say his name, Toussaint Louverture, he made America. Now let me get to the panel. I had to get that out of my system, out of my spirit. Let me introduce Guinevere Catching-Tess. Please give a round of applause. The Honorable Michael Blake, please come to the stage. The great Michael Eric Dyson, PhD. The aforementioned Roland S. Martin. And the brilliantly talented Leslie Odom Jr. Come on. Roland trying to make up with me now. Looking wrong.
All of your body.
Now, I will note that I send the short bio, and folks should choose to read that one.
I need you to sit next to me so you can behave.
That ain't gonna do it.
It ain't gonna do it.
My mama can't get me to behave. Janetta Cole can't get me to behave. Some small
All right.
ass seats too. Black man got hips. What y'all? See, y'all invite brothers. It's gonna be a different panel.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna stay here because I'm not Mike. So actually, do I have a? Oh, does this mic work? Maybe I'll sit with y'all. All right, I'm gonna stay here then, because I don't think this mic works. Let me see. Good evening. Good evening. Oh, this does work. Okay, I can sit down. Okay. All right. So let's just jump right into it. And I do want to start with the great Guinevere Catchings-Hess, because this was your vision, to have this all-male panel. Why?
Well, I think I need to borrow your mic. Because I'm not mindful.
Yes.
No, I want you to please be seated, because I'm just going to say this as to why we decided to do this. This is the time to do this. If not now, when could we possibly do it? So much is at stake. Our lives, our children, the democracy of this country, everything that we have worked for thus far is so important. And we need to hear other voices other than the ones in the room that we've been normally hearing from. We want to collaborate with all of you so that you can tell us how we can do better as far as saving our democracy. Our theme for this entire symposium is the ancestors' dream is our call to action. So as part of our call to action, we want you to join us and fulfill the ancestors' dream.
Thank you. Okay, well, I'm going to jump right into it because, you know, we are facing this historic election in which democracy is on the line, to your point, and saving democracy is the agenda that I think everyone in this room shares. But for a lot of the Black women in the world, this is a moment of Black girl magic. Vice President Harris represents the best of Black women. But the question then becomes, how do we make this a shared victory in our community where Black men feel equally invested? And I think it's important to do that because we are a team as a community. And we don't want Black men to feel marginalized in this moment when Black women are celebrating our best, making it to the top, right? So I want us to talk about that and about what Black men are feeling and thinking in this moment. And we can be real and honest. This is a family conversation. I do want to start with the Honorable Michael Blake. And if you all are not familiar with him, he is phenomenal. He's the founder and CEO of Carol's Democracy Project and the Atlas Strategy Group, which focuses on economic empowerment through increasing access to something very important: capital, say capital, contracting, and opportunities. Okay, and that is directed to minority, women, and businesses, along with creating metrics-based programs for social justice and civic engagement for communities of color. We know DEI is under fire.
He's also an alpha.
Oh Lord Jesus, here we go. But that's important. He's also a member of one of the great fraternities of the D9. Okay. Oh, no, it's all good. We don't know if there might be multiple, D9 members of the room. We want to be good. And so, and we know that one of the things that Vice President Harris has emphasized, and I think it is because she is trying to make sure that Black men are included in her pitch for the White House, on economic opportunity, things like the $50,000 to start a business, like that feels to me like it's directed at Black men who are like, what is our stake? Do you take it that way? And just tell me what those stakes look like.
100%. Good morning. Good morning. First and foremost, we'll get the mic.
Tap your mic. Tap your mic.
Yeah, tap your mic.
Double check, make sure it's on.
Does it work?
Back on. He switched my mic on.
Double check, make sure it's on.
I'll pass.
It's on.
We're gonna pass the mic.
I see it here.
Come on,
Pass the
mic,
mic.
man.
Pass the mic.
I'm gonna take my mic off.
Don't give a preacher 3 mics now. Come on now, right? So good morning again. First and foremost, we love and appreciate you. So let's start there, because you created space for us to be in the space right now, right? And we were showing love to KJP as we need to, but Joy, every time you on TV, it makes us feel better. So let's make sure we say that too, right there, right? So we tell the brothers all the time, you can be a man and a feminist at the same time, right? And your victory is our victory and vice versa. And so to the degree later context, I ran black outreach at the White House for President Obama. I had to go to Iowa to make sure we got this thing elected. So we saw what was possible when we got this thing in. So bringing it full circle now for the vice president, the racist, sexist, misogynistic attacks against her, we got to call it what it is. To say that she is not qualified when she was a successful DA, AG, United States Senator, and Vice President, who is leading the maternal health task force and the space task force, all these things made her prepared when she's running against an absolute buffoon who has been consistently racist in all that he does. And again, laying the groundwork to the question. See, as a New Yorker, I'm real clear about the other side. He's a man who, made sure that black folk didn't get access to housing. He's the one that went after the Central Park Five. He says that we come from these terrible countries and all things are bad because of us. He says black folks shouldn't run his money. I'm very clear. Then he chose J.D. Vance, who is the lead sponsor on the DEI bill to take away DEI from the federal government. So I'm very clear about that. So to the question, at the end of the day, they are trying to make it say, though black men should not support her because for some reason we can't do that. It's foolishness and it's nonsense. And so to the degree of the economy, saying let's go from $5,000 to $50,000 for a small business and for black-owned business, that is game-changing right out the gate. To say that a $6,000 child tax credit, that impacts all of us because it's not just the sisters who need that, all of our families need that. And so when you do those things, it's relevant. And to that degree, it's why myself and Roland and Bakari Sellers and Quentin James and Khalil Thompson, the day after she announced that she was going to run, 54,000 brothers got on the line and said, we're going to do what's right now. And from all across the country, Mike was dropping knowledge, and I'm grateful for people like Leslie utilizing their spaces here. So I say this to say, Kairos is our framing, because Kairos is the other definition of time. Chronos is chronological. Kairos means opportunity to create moments. And when we talk about how brothers need to stand up for sisters and vice versa, I don't think it's coincidental that Inauguration Day next year, that when she becomes president, that Inauguration Day is MLK Day. I don't think it's coincidence that the kings are going to make sure that this queen becomes president. And so it is our responsibility to make it very clear. Lastly, Joy, to the question, we have to talk about the economy because all they have on the other side is foolishness right now. So they're saying, well, we should not support her because she was a DA and a prosecutor. I would rather ask the question, how do you prosecute the prosecutor? It doesn't really make sense to me. And so the man on the other side who can't count how many times he could potentially go to jail, he is running for president to try to stay out of jail. He's not running for president to run a country right now. And so we have to be clear that the economic vision of being laid out by the vice president is setting the tone on why she will become president.
Let me go to you, Michael Eric Dyson, because you've written and talked a lot about the intersection, of black men in the criminal justice system. You even talked about it in your own family. And there is a meme out there, especially among young brothers who aren't as familiar with Vice President Harris's history, that, she locked up black men. That the fact that she's a prosecutor is a negative for some black men, and that's just real talk. Talk about that. How do we unpack that and the lies about her history to make sure that people feel comfortable that she is of us and for us?
Well, some people need to go to jail.
Now, I did say Roland was acting up. I have to add Michael Eric Dyson. You see what I have to deal with, y'all?
I'm just saying, I don't know about you, but I've been to some of these prisons. I say, thank God for prison. Now, having said that, and Donald Trump is the #1 person who needs to be there, right? But look, we know the manipulation, we know the misinformation, which is inadvertent calculations that end up wrong. Disinformation is a deliberate attempt to undermine the infrastructure of knowledge for the advantage of an individual or a group. So we know from the get-go, we're dealing with an inveterately mediocre, fatally dumbass who, in many ways, I ain't seen no Haitians eat no dog, but I saw a black woman eat a white ass the other day. So, and look,
I'm sorry, excuse me. Pardon me, excuse me. Excuse me. Excuse me. Excuse me. Excuse me. Excuse me. Yeah, excuse me. Right, exactly. Now, I just want to clarify, just from a journalistic point of view, 'cause I'm a journalist. Are you saying that she left no crumbs? That's all I'm asking. My only question. That's all I'm asking. As a journalist.
I am saying that she masticated the gluteus maximus.
I just wanted to clarify that. Please go on.
And here's the thing. When we look at the history...
Y'all got Leslie praying.
When we look at the history of black male struggle in particular, when you talk about black men in prison and incarcerated, you got to talk about a black professor from Ohio who wrote The New Jim Crow. When you think about black men who have been undermined in American culture, black women have been at the forefront of trying to articulate noble principles that will emancipate and liberate us. So as brothers, we are simply trying to pay back what black women have done from the very beginning. And so when you talk about, I wrote a book 21 years ago called Why I Love Black Women. Right? It wasn't no thing. It wasn't no black girl magic or black boy joy. I did it because I looked around and saw all of the hate and the disregard and the acrimony which was being directed toward black women. Some of it from black men who were rappers. Bitch, hoe, skeezer, slut, hood rat, chicken head. And I wanted to elevate the spiritual genius, the physical dexterity, the phenomenal flexibility, the emotional intensity, and the pulchritude of black women. From every, right? And I want it from deep dark chocolate to vanilla vitality. 'Cause we got the ring. And I know they say, well, you know, as a man, you shouldn't acknowledge women in terms of their beauty. Black women have been under-recognized for the extraordinary beauty you possess. So I don't mean to reduce you to the complexity of your own physical embodiment, but at the same time, ain't nothing as fine as a black woman in America. So for me, finer than frog's hairs and amazing in beautiful ways. So for me, when I look at Kamala Harris, I see a black woman who's doing the job that a black woman has always done. Now, the thing is, do you want the commercial or the product? We know she exists in an era where she got to wink and nod because she's running in America where people are listening. So during Dana Bash's interview, she said, next question, no comment. At the debate, she deconstructed and demythologized white supremacy in a nutshell. The context determines the content. So Kamala Harris has been on the front line trying to provide opportunity for black men, while at the same time listening to other black people calling her, saying they are terrorizing our neighborhoods and we need to do something serious about addressing that. It's not an either or. We know you could be a high-paid athlete in Miami on your way to the game. And we know white supremacy, and sometimes white supremacy has brown skin, right? We know that. Sometimes white supremacy got black skin with a white wife. right? In America, right? And so...
Why you gotta be bringing up Clarence Thomas?
I ain't said no name, I just said, right? So my point is...
Leave Miss Jenny alone.
I think that black women have been on the forefront. Kamala Harris represents that. She represents intelligence. She represents emotional integrity. She represents fairness for us. And when she's talking about $50,000, she ain't got to say that in order for us to know that. And if you forcing people to say what they already know, you forcing them in a context of white supremacy where black women can't even get together to create funds to distribute money among themselves. You ain't got to stop doing it, you got to stop saying you doing it and end up doing it in a more effective way. Let me end by saying this. Look, we are deeply and profoundly appreciative of black women, but we know as black men, some of us have been misogynistic, which is the cruel hatred of women. We know some of us are sexist, the belief that men's lives dictate the conditions of the world, or patriarchal, to believe unconsciously or consciously that men's lives determine what happens. You have been concerned about us as black men, making space, as Brother Blake said. For us, a man session is real. When the recession hit in 2008, 2009, a lot of black male jobs were lost. And you dealt with our fragile egos, our fractured hearts and souls, and you still received us. That's why you put us on the deacon board, even if we didn't have no job at the moment. Now, the problem is that we have practiced ecclesiastical apartheid. 75% of the black church is black women. They can cook, clean, and sew and do everything but run the church they numerically dominate. So God has a sense of humor. God said, you won't make her pastor, I'll make her president. So,
Let me go. I think you're getting some hallelujahs. Let me go to Leslie Odom Jr. Because I'm checking on my paper. Because you an EGOT? Are you an EGOT yet? You not yet? Because I know you got Emmys, plural. Right? I know you got Tonys.
You got nationwide on the side.
And you got nationwide. Well, you're gonna be an EGOT soon. If you're not now, you should be. Somebody need to do better if you're not an EGOT yet. Because you're one of the most talented brothers, honestly. And I'm saying that honestly, ever. We are not, this man does not have to perform for us. We know what he can do. Everybody needs to buy his material and support him. That's totally up to you, my brother. But I want to, because what you've seen from the Trump side is they've made a really aggressive push among our brothers in entertainment, particularly in the hip hop world, but they've managed, and in sports, he's tried to cultivate that because he doesn't have the culture, right? The culture is Beyonce, who said, no, that lady can use my music, you sir cannot, right? It's the Swifties at this point, Even Caitlin Clark got involved, and she don't really do politics, and they're mad at her for just liking the Taylor Swift thing. But culturally, entertainment culture is on the side generally of progressivism. And so they're pushing back with, their version of it, but they're also trying to get black men to sell Trump to their fans. What do you make of that strategy, and why do you think some of these entertainers are going along with it?
Well, we can't be, we can't kid ourselves. We're trying to stare down and face down. These are generational curses. This is something that has been here. We're talking about the answers. This is something that has been here long before we were. And so we're staring at something, we're trying to stare down something that doesn't want to die, that wants to live on through our children, through our neighbors, that, it knows that it is gasping for breath. I did this movie. It wasn't a great movie, but we had concepts of a plan. We had,
I see what you did there. I see what you did there.
But I did this movie about an exorcism. You know, I thought it was really a powerful idea about this black father fighting for his black daughter. He was going to go, you know, march into the center of hell for his black daughter. And I had these, well-meaning, but you know, all these all-white producers and a white writer and stuff. And so, you know, having conversations with them about why I can't strangle my black daughter and drown her in the bathroom. I can't be a part of making images like that in the world. But it got me thinking a lot about exorcism, you know, and really the you know, it's real stuff. You know, when if you think about something that is being passed down through the generation, you know, and really the first step of an exorcism is to shine a light on it, is to name it, is to call it out before you cast it out. And so a gathering like this to invite us into this space where we get to call out something, misogyny or ignorance, division, what is the attempt, you know, for the desire of the enemy to work through our community in this way, to divide us in this way. We're gonna call it out, we're gonna name it, we're gonna have the courage to stare it down. That's the first step.
And to do that, Roland, I mean, I think there needs to be some interior work too, because there are a lot of black men who are hurting, and it is not a thing that is like, you know, popular for black men to emote and to talk about publicly. The previous panel was about self-care and how we're gonna, you know, manage to, you know, put ourselves first and that kind of thing. And black women have leaned into that in a big way. But for black men, it is harder, right? Because, you know, you're expected to be a certain way in the world. And so, you know, if we can address just in a real way the pain a lot of brothers are in that is making them vulnerable to these kind of appeals.
So first, for the conversation, you have to remove Vice President Kamala Harris. Then you have to go back to 2016, you have to remove Secretary Hillary Clinton. The mistake that I consistently see, even in our group chat, we talk about this, I consistently see sisters making this mistake. What you're seeing happening with black men, misogyny is not at the top of the list. Sexism is not number 2. Let me go back to 2012. First of all, overall, when you look at the data, the group that votes for Democrats is the highest is black women. Number 2 is black men. Number 2. 2012, that was a 9-point gap between black men and black women. That was Obama and Romney. A woman wasn't in the race. So you now have to ask the question, wait a minute, what was happening there? I was one of the few voices on air saying, y'all, this is going to be a problem because you're not listening to black men. Black men were disappointed in the first 4 years of Obama's presidency. They felt he should have done more. So you saw this gap in 2012. You then saw some Republicans targeting brothers. Democrats were ignoring it. I was saying, I'm telling y'all, if you don't address this, it's going to be a problem in the next election. 16 comes around. All of a sudden, folks are like, oh my God, look at these numbers. Trump, 13%. They were throwing numbers out. Look at the numbers that he got with black men. If you look at Tom Tillis, 4 years later when he ran for Senator in North Carolina, he's the architect of voter suppression in North Carolina, but he got 18% of black men in North Carolina. And so the problem is, folk keep assuming, well, and again, that was Tillis running against Cunningham, 2 men. So now you got to say, wait a minute. If I'm seeing this in the data and 2 men are running, how is it because she's a woman? It is because you have had largely white Democratic strategists that are running campaigns that have been communicating with black people in a broad way. If you study the data, so I graduated from college in 1991, so I'm Gen X. My generation was the first generation that, first of all, we're post-civil rights movement babies. We're going to college, but you begin with Gen X and you begin to see the shift where black people less self-identify as Democrats. Now, how you vote is different than how you self-identify. So you look at the data, 65 plus, high percent self-identify as Democrats. You go 55-64, 45-54, and down, that number drops considerably. So strategists have been saying, oh, reach black people, go to the black church in September, October, go to the NAACP, speak there, maybe go speak to National Urban League, yo, we good. No, you now have to micro-target black people. In 2022, when I was in Georgia trying to help Senator Warren not get reelected, it was in the runoff. There was a sister who owned a cafe, and she said, look, I get reproductive rights, but I ain't having a kid. I do own this business, so I care about corporate taxes. So she said, I'm listening to her show and Raphael to see what they got to say about corporate taxes. The producer was like, I wasn't expecting that. I'm like, because you're not understanding. So when you have the next generation, the focus on entrepreneurship, the focus on other issues, so now what we care about may be different than what our mothers and fathers care about, which now means you now have to communicate differently. And so what you've seen is, you've seen candidates and campaigns not actually talking to black men saying, what do you care about? They see a party focusing on an array of issues, and when they see reproductive rights, when they see LGBTQ rights, they say, what about us? We can't act like it doesn't exist. The problem is folks are burying their heads in the sand. They're saying it. Terrence Woodbury, in his research, he shows it. He is doing focus groups. He has done focus groups with black men for the last 8 years. It's in the focus groups in terms of what they care about. And the number one thing they say is, nobody asks us our permission, ask us what we actually care about. And I'm gonna be real honest, when you even look at social media, it's a lot of sisters telling brothers what they should be saying and doing, and nobody's stepping back saying, what do you want to see happen? So when I am communicating with the folks, and what brothers when they say, man, I'm gonna sit this out or I'm not gonna vote, I ask them, what are the 3 things you care about? Then we have a conversation on the 3 things they care about and how politics connects with that from presidential, congressional, state, county, city, school district level. And so that's what's not happening. Now, Terrence Woodbury's focus groups show that when you ask the question and they give the answer and then you share what policies have been done to affect that, then there's a shift from I'm not going to vote to I will register, I will vote. When we had our Women with Black Men call, there was a sister, she put it on TikTok. Her daddy was like, I ain't in this, I don't care, I don't give a damn who running. She sent him the graphic about the Women with Black Men call. She said that Monday night, she was trying to call him for 3 hours. She's like, he ain't answer the phone. Well, come to find out, he was on the call. No. The clap is not he was on the call because he was on the call. He wanted to hear what other black men were saying about the issues. 3 hours in, he sends her a text, I'm supporting the vice president, I'm going to vote, because he was listening to other black men talk about the issues. So, if you're going to have this conversation, and this is where Democrats are failing, and this is where many of our organizations are failing, we're not creating spaces to have black male dialogue about what they care about. And so you have black men who own businesses, even if they're barbers, and they actually care about corporate tax rate. I was in Houston with a brother who owns a restaurant. When the corporate tax rate went from 35 to 20%, that put an additional $500,000 in his family's pocket. So when Vice President Kamala Harris said take the corporate tax rate from 20 up to 28, he's like, I got a problem. Now, some of us will go, but what's your problem with that? Because the previous generation didn't have corporate tax conversations because we didn't own businesses. So we have to understand, as we become more upwardly mobile, we are looking at other issues that our mama and daddy never looked at. My parents never made more than $50,000 combined, so they weren't concerned about the top tax rate being 43% because they never got near that income for 43%. My ass been there for a long time. So we have to stop the demonization and step back and say, brother, why are you disinterested? Why do you not care? And then when they come back, well, this, we have to actually take the time to have the conversation. We can't say, well, look, you just got to vote. That don't work. It doesn't work to say, well, somebody is in the data. Well, somebody down here right to vote. That does not work with Gen Z and millennials. You can, in fact, the research even shows, Cornell Belcher and Terrence Woodbury, you shouldn't even use the phrase voter suppression. Because Gen Z and millennial voters, when they hear voter suppression, they actually think the 1960s. The language you have to use is they're shutting down polling locations. That resonates differently with them than it does a 65 or 55 plus voter. And so if we're going to address the issue, we have to say, I need to be able to communicate with brothers on their level and ask them, which is the exact same thing Ella Baker told all the SNCC workers. She says, take your college clothes off. Don't act like those sharecroppers with second and third grade education aren't smart. They are. They just don't have college degrees. She said, but ask them what do they care about and not what you're here to tell them what they should care about. That's the mistake that we keep making.
So this is important. This is interesting because I think what I'm hearing from as I'm listening to y'all, and anybody can jump in, is that there are three things that the Democratic Party, even when the Republican Party is saying again that they have to do, is number one, I think people don't really know necessarily who to be mad at when things don't go right. So they'll say, housing is too expensive, I'm mad at Biden. And then they don't make the connection, well, does Biden have anything to do with housing prices? No. Or they'll say, Vice President Harris says she's gonna do all these things, why hasn't she done it yet? Do you know what a vice president does? They have no job, they have no role. They don't do it.
Yesterday, Faison Love did a video and said, if Donald Trump or Kamala Harris gets rid of child support, they'll win the election.
Right.
I had to woo-saw, but on my show last night, I was like, Faison, the president doesn't deal with child support because that's a state issue. We're also dealing with, to Michael's point, we're dealing with a generation and multiple generations that does not understand civics.
Right. And I mean, Michael,
and we gotta walk
them through it.
Civics.
I gotta go to you, Michael, because what I'm thinking about when 50 Cent did a post that went viral because he was upset that New York was granting these debit cards to immigrants
and California
and there is this issue about immigration that is real.
Oh, it's huge.
And with black folk who say, wait a minute, is that group of people getting benefits and help from the government that's not coming to us? That's a real issue. That was my third thing.
Very real.
But in this case, he was upset about an issue that had nothing to do with Biden. Biden was still the nominee, but he was angry at Biden because he tied that program. What he missed about that program is that it actually reduced the cost of giving immigrants food because they were wasting the food they had because they didn't eat that kind of food. And so you're giving them food they wouldn't eat and they were throwing it away. And the debit cards that they were getting came from a black company. So you were actually enriching a black company that produced and created these debit cards that then get used in bodegas, in small businesses. So it was literally folk of color and small businesses owned by people of color, including black people, that were 100% benefiting from that because you had to spend all the money. You couldn't like put the money in the bank. So it's like those kind of things, when he did that, my response was not to like attack 50 Cent, it was to like, let me explain this to you, right? And so we have to like come at it in a loving way, but that is some of it, right? That people don't know really who to blame when they have an issue.
We need a new Schoolhouse Rock.
Yes, we do.
Right?
Yes.
And I nominate Questlove to create it, I'm just saying.
I mean, I think I would nominate Leslie Odom to do that right there. Just saying right there to do that, right?
Questlove can write it, you can sing it. How about that? Okay.
From the institution perspective, so I was vice chair of the DNC before and was first black man since Ron Brown elected in that role, and I think it's relevant to the question. Too often, our Democratic leadership is only focused on elections as opposed to educating about what's going down. Right? And the primary reason we started our Kairos Democracy Project is the storytelling of this is necessary. That the absurdity of Trump on Tuesday night, while it could anger everyone, as it should, their data is showing them to keep talking about immigration.
Yes.
Because in New York or wherever it may be, but I'm using New York as an example, when you have folks like, well, they're taking our jobs. I was like, who's the they? Who's the they? You don't even know the name of who you're talking about right now, right? But to your point, Joy, the fear and the anger and the frustration is creating a space that I got to be angry at somebody, and y'all are the ones doing something. But Trump and Republicans, which we got to call it out, consistently are saying these cities ran by black mayors and black electeds, and you black folk are the problems. And so what we have to do is be focused on the awareness education exercise, 1. 2, we have to make sure that people realize that election day is not November 5th. Election day is when you start voting in your state, right? And so there are states where ballots are going out now. And equally, the understanding that there are places like in Michigan where we have a great sister, Justice Kyra Bolden, who needs to be reelected to the Supreme Court. But then you also have a clown in Mark Robinson in North Carolina who fundamentally is the reason why Governor Cooper was like, I can't leave this state because this one's going to try to destroy the state right now, where we have to make people aware. You have places like in North Carolina where quietly they are trying to remove 250,000 people from the rolls right now. Where on the flip side, you have a Michigan where on September 26th, they're going 40 straight days of voting. But tying it back to the point, if we are not making the practical connection and addressing the feeling and the realities that folks are having, like, yo, you know what? My gas prices went up and down, but my milk costs a lot, my bread costs a lot, and I'm not really understanding. So y'all must be doing something. It's like, hold on, let's take this step back, my man. It's not just one person that's doing these things. There's a whole condition around it. But at the end of the day, I make the sports analogies all the time. I think about who is the general manager, who is the coach, who's creating the system. That's what I want. I'd rather have Kamala Harris creating a system for 4 years ahead than Donald Trump and all that he's trying to do. And then lastly, from the education standpoint, be real clear, everybody. It does not matter what happens on election day. He's going to say he won, right? And so our responsibility has to be for those 2 months, but start making people aware now of what is happening in your states. Don't forget, the election did not get called 4 years ago until Saturday because of what happened in Pennsylvania, the ballots coming in. And so that awareness also has to happen because the young brother's gonna be out here like, yo, so they talking about this thing is rigged and it's taking so long. You know what, why am I gonna go vote? I'm not even worried about that. And so what I'm asking you is to find the groups, black-led groups that are doing the work on the ground to mobilize and educate and empower around the practical realities of what's going on.
Thank you for calling Bill Council Associates today.
No, amen to that. And a couple things, you know, Roland gave a kind of a brilliant genealogy of things as they exist.
Again, thank you for calling and have a great day.
Thank you. You have a great day as well. Appreciate you, girl. So, Jesus knew we needed that. So here's the thing. What Roland did is deconstruct for us in capsule form.
Thank you for calling Bill Council.
Okay.
I think Jesus is on the main line. Y'all should tell him what you want.
I hear voices.
Black woman. I knew it.
So the thing is, where we are is extremely important to acknowledge, because if Republicans were smarter, they could double their rolls overnight because of the inherent conservatism of African American communities when it comes to the 10 Commandment religious stuff in terms of abortion, right? Black people support civically the right of a woman to choose, but existentially and religiously, they might have a conundrum or a problem or a quarrel. We get that. So he's absolutely right in terms of talking about where we are. And in terms of, he had kind of corporate issues that the mothers and fathers didn't have. This is why it's important to remember a figure like Martin Luther King Jr. Martin Luther King Jr. was, by Negro standards, really well-to-do. They called him Tweed when he was young. They called him part of the wrecking crew. He said, why? Because we wreck all the ladies. He was 15 years old. He went on to college. He got an automobile at 19 when he graduated. from graduate school. He graduated from undergraduate and then went on to graduate school and went on to Boston. What am I saying here? Martin Luther King Jr. at the end of his life was down to 3 suits. He was talking about economic inequality. So what we have to remember is that now our Christian faith really gets tested. It ain't tested when you poor and you ain't got no money and you ain't got no resources. The question is, can you remember the demonized and the demoralized when you got dough? When you now sound like a Republican, I work hard for mine, you work hard for yours. As opposed to creating infrastructure. See, because they sell you that line of stuff while they daddies give them $400 million to support what they're doing. So what I'm saying is, take what Roland is talking about, Brother Blake is talking about, and the demonology, I love that in terms of calling out the demons, because they be acting like demons. Hataboshike. Let's call them out. But the question is, to what degree are we willing to acknowledge our own complicity in systems that have hurt and damaged us? Right? And so at that end of the day, that means that we are together. Black men cannot afford to be demonizing black women for their relatively upward mobility. It's not that anybody gave it to them, they worked hard. But we know patriarchy finds another male especially problematic and will direct that toward us. But we shouldn't in turn demonize black women. So that's why we got to come together and understand and love each other. And I've heard a lot of brothers dogging Kamala for who she chose. I said, Negro, I know 2 brothers she was with. Put a ring on it. And if you put a ring on it, don't be mad the white boy stepped up into the spot and represented. Right? Now, let me finish this, and then I know Roland's good. But my broader point is this. My broader point is, given what Roland deconstructed there, we got to ask to what degree our own conservative values militate against the more progressive vision we ought to have about the people we represent. And at the end of the day, that's how we can come together in a powerful fashion.
You also have to understand how to how to communicate and flip that. So a sister came up to me last night at the Texas party and she said, well, it's brothers out here, they mad because her husband's white. I said, and she was like, I don't get it. I said, first of all, you're getting way too emotional. No, I don't. Because again, you can't think when you're emotional. I said, if a brother tells you that he has a problem, that the vice president has a white husband, you should say, you're wearing Air Jordans. His second wife not black. I said, you should ask him, did you like Kobe Bryant? Kobe, my man. His wife wasn't black. You have to flip it. So you have to challenge someone's state of mind. So you're tripping because her husband's white, but your favorite basketball star or your favorite football star does not have a black wife. And so again, that's not an emotional response. That's simply thinking your way through. Now you force them to go, oh damn, they just hit me with that. And that is the problem in terms of what we're dealing with. We have to recognize again how to communicate to get the person from where they are to where we're trying to get them. So you brought up 50 Cent. 50 Cent goes to Capitol Hill with Ben Crump because to make the case for black spirit companies to get shelf space in the spirit industry. So he's taking photos with Lauren Boebert and Mike Johnson and all these different people. 50, what you're trying to do, they all oppose DEI. 50, you're buying buildings in Shreveport, but you got a hard right governor, Jeff Landry, who is shutting down opportunities. And so that's one of those examples where it's cute taking pictures with them, but they're opposing the very thing that you're trying to do to advance your business. We got to walk folks through that, and that to me, I think what our goal has to be. And the last point that we have to also recognize, we are now living in the space where we have had the destruction of black-owned media for the last 40 years. So remember, you don't have an Ebony or a Jet. Essence is not what it used to be. Black Enterprise is an event company, not a business magazine. So the black media infrastructure that countered what mainstream was doing basically has disintegrated. So you now have black folks largely getting their information from Instagram and TikTok and Twitter. And so what they're being fed, and perfect example, the one candidate who was the #1 target in 2019 by Russian troll farms was Senator Kamala Harris. They were specifically targeting her as a prosecutor. And this was a failure on her part and her sister. I told them, y'all, the #1 thing that you gotta do is, what's your criminal justice record? That was in March. They didn't drop it till July. 4 months went by of nothing but black men in jail. And guess what happened? It stuck. And now you're trying to unwind it. And so we have to understand, we are specifically the largest troll farm, the largest Black Lives Matter group on Facebook in 2016 was a Russian troll farm. We are being targeted specifically, and we got to understand that disinformation is real, and you got to counter it with facts.
Thank you. And we're about to wrap it. I want to give Leslie the last word. And you left out BET, which used to have news. It used to have news, and it doesn't. But thankfully,
BET ain't black owned.
And it's not black owned anymore. But on BET, Taraji P. Henson probably educated more people about Project 2025 in 5 minutes than the mainstream media did in months. And so she was very important in that. I'm going to give you the last word, because the other piece of it in the disinformation is small things that I do hear more often, honestly, from brothers than I hear from anybody else. And that is this misinformation about, I was doing better under Trump. And they base that on the STEMI checks. The check has become a really powerful thing. And by the way, I used to work in politics when I got out of media. I 100% believe in checks. I was openly telling the two men who were running for the United States Senate Georgia, don't say any other word but checks. Just say, put me in there and them checks will flow. Because you know why? Voting in many ways is transactional.
Yes.
What's the point of voting if you're not getting anything? And if you're suffering economically and struggling, like a lot of black folk are, 60% of black people are low wealth. And so if you're struggling, if you remember an era where you were getting a check, you're going to remember that as a good era, even if 1 million people died to get you that check. And that's real.
Remember, you had moratorium on evictions. You had
moratorium on
money out for childcare. And they increased unemployment insurance.
That's right. So people had more money.
Right. That's what the data shows. Black wealth increased.
Exactly.
That's
But what I gotta say, yeah, I know.
But here's
the point too.
Just data.
But black celebrities got to have some goddamn knowledge before they speak
talk.
up, right?
No, it's true.
Because otherwise, the dumbassery is astonishing.
It's real. So I'm gonna give Leslie the last word on this, because there.
You gotta follow that, Leslie.
I'm not talking about Leslie.
Because this is.
I was born by a river in a little tent.
It's been a long.
That was a side eye, like really.
Right before I talk.
Like really.
So what do we? The most powerful conveyors of information, I wish, was the news media. I wish it was media. But it is people in your world. It is folks like you, because the reality is Taraji becomes the information carrier that in many ways a TV news anchor can't be, because not everybody's watching MSNBC, and I don't know why. Just watch me. Don't watch it. And everybody watch Matter. Everybody loves it. Okay, but listen. So this is my charge and my question to you. Is, are we going to see, we got 52 days?
Yep.
Will we see a coming together in the entertainment world, and should we? Because that does seem to be a powerful way to undo some of this misinformation and disinformation. And what would you charge this audience to do to better ourselves through the voices of black men?
I'll say a couple things real quick. I was invited here by my dear brother here, Mike Blake. So the black celebrity in your midst, you know what I mean, needs you to invite them into these kind of spaces to hear from people, because we're awfully busy too out there trying to create our own thing. So when we get invitations like this, when we get to rub elbows with the black intellectuals, with the authors, to give us the
Don't blow his head up anymore. Don't give him no more. Don't look at him over there. Don't do that.
To plug us in, that's really helpful. I also think, we've also noticed that there's a real change in the way we think about celebrity in this country, and it's not what it used to be. And so I've been on group chats with black and white celebrities, and we're being mindful and thoughtful about that too. There are times when in 2024 when we can muck things up. You know what I mean? Us actually trying to be the face of a campaign might not be the vibe right now, because they get tied to us and our mess, in ways. I think at the, what I try to remember, for my wellness is that to end it on a hopeful note, like I am actually not running for office. And what I have seen in this sister and this team, they are doing an incredible job. I mean, that debate the other night, the preparation, the way that they have stepped into this moment, and the way that they are rising to this occasion, it is something, no matter how it goes at the beginning of November, that's going to be studied and admired for many, many years to come. We're going to, do the very best. All of us are going to do the very best we can and have no regrets after Election Day.
Amen. Thank you. I want to thank this panel. Michael Eric Dyson, please mention your new book. Tell us the name of your new book. And y'all should check it out. It is about voting.
It's called Represent, the Unfinished Business of the Vote. I was on Joy Reid's show last night, and she boosted me significantly.
Let's get this book on the New York Times bestseller list, please.
You.
Make sure that you check it out. I want to thank Guinevere Catchings-Hess for putting this panel together. Thank you, dear sister. This was such a wonderful thing. Michael Blake, Michael Eric Dyson, you all, Leslie Odom Jr., and you know this brother right here. Come on now. He acted up, but he acted all right. Roland Martin behaved himself tolerably well.
Happens every now and then.
Every now and then. Thank you all very much. Make sure you register somebody to vote. Tell a friend, tell a friend. Thank you very much.
Sure, let's get you.
So while they are, can I get my mic? So while you are taking this picture, oh, you want me to? Oh,
Don't move.
all right, you in the room where it happened? So I want to take a moment. I want to take a moment, thank our amazing moderator, Joyanne Reed, our visionary president, for thinking of the concept. She not only thought of a concept, but she had a plan behind that concept. These few good men and the words that they just spoke on this nonpartisan, but just the facts panel. Thank you for that. So, nonpartisan. Did you get some insight? Are you inspired? Was this impactful? Are we ready to implement? All right, so we know what we need to do for self-care. We know how to get our black men out to vote. And so now, I'm calling our Vice President of Administration, Mary Clark, to the dais to close us out.
Good morning. Dr. Jeffries Leonard just stole my thunder because I was going to ask you to stand up and give all of our speakers and panelists and moderators another round of applause. So I'm going to share something very important, very important. I don't know if you knew, but this is being live streamed. So you're on TV. So it's being live streamed to the BWA YouTube channel And the reason why that is so important is because if you learned something today and you were energized by these conversations, then you need to recruit and let people know they need to tune in so that they can hear exactly what you heard today. So I thank you, audience, and I also thank our two major sponsors, AARP and FedEx. Thank you so much. Have a great day.